here to moderate that panel is a lifelong Star Wars fan. He's also an artist, official Star Wars artist, Kevin Lyle.
I don't know, is this on? All right, great. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Kevin Lyle. I'm a Star Wars artist. I do product development and artwork. But I also have a booth here at the convention if anybody's interested. But more importantly, at my booth, we're raffling off this Star Wars Marvel cover. It's painted by me, Orlando Calrissian, and it's signed by Billy D. Williams. And all the proceeds go to the Wounded Warrior Project. So the $5 a ticket, only 100 tickets will be sold. It's right over there at my booth. I really appreciate it. But without further ado, that's my commercial. I do have to go over a couple ground rules. We are going to open up the audience. Can you all hear me, by the way? You can't hear me? Can you go a little louder? Okay, we're good. We are going to open the audience up to some questions. You guys can ask whatever you want, but it can't be about Episode 8 and it can't be about Rogue One. None of them are in Rogue One, but we just don't want to get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? We all good? What? It's a question and answer. It's not now.
You said you can't talk about Rogue One, but there's the picture of Biggs, like, in that video, dude. So, he is in Rogue One.
Are you done?
So is that question, like, is that, like, good?
Alright. Whatever. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our Rebels panel for the morning, afternoon, whatever it is. So please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Garrett Hagan. Biggs Darklighter. And fellow Yavin pilot, Mr. Jack Claff, Red 4. And everyone's favorite Solistan, Mr. Mike Quinn. And let's make a big cheers for Mr. Peter Mayhew. Chewbacca.
Check, check.
All right, I don't get a loose mic. Okay. How y'all doing today, guys?
Fine.
Good, good. Welcome to Wintercon.
Thank you.
So I thought I'd kind of start our panel with the beginning, and I'll just I'll start with you. If you can talk about how you got introduced to Star Wars. How'd you get into the film?
Well, all of us, all the American guys in London at the time who were of a certain age, and don't go back, it's 40 years, isn't it? 40 years ago. 40 years, almost 40 years ago, we all went up to meet George, and all on an equal basis. And I think George had a little card like this, and he marked us out of 10, apparently. And as far as I remember, we didn't actually read. I didn't read. I don't know whether Jack read or Mike, but I didn't read anything. We just talked. And I was told before I went in that George wouldn't talk very much, so I talked as much as I could. And he was marking something or other on that card, and I guess I got a mark that enabled me to get Biggs Darklighter. And for that, I'm eternally grateful.
I never met George Lucas. I never got interviewed. I'm not American. I have absolutely no idea why I got the role in Star Wars. I have no. If somebody phoned me up, my agent, very, very posh English person, she said, "Hello, Jack. I'm afraid you're going to have to go away from Shakespeare just for a little while. They're doing this film called Stan Wars." Because written down on her piece of paper is Stan Wars. She thought it was some guy. Nobody had a clue. Nobody told me anything about it. I didn't audition. I went in, there was a lot of noise. They put me on a board and shook me up and said, "Do I mind being blown up?" And they put something over my face after they blew me up. And then in the corner was a little guy with a beard. Everyone had been shouting, and he went, "Thank you very much, thank you, good job." And that was George Lucas. I was there for 2 days, and I filmed for about an hour, and I haven't done a signing for longer than most of you have been alive.
Yes, excellent. Like Jack, I never auditioned either. I was kind of fortunate because the movie before Return of the Jedi in the same studio was The Dark Crystal, and we'd also done The Great Muppet Caper. It was a 2-picture deal with Lou Gray. So basically they just commandeered all the puppeteers from Henson to work creatures on Return of the Jedi. And my character Nine Nom wasn't established, of course, at that time. So I was just brought in as a generic puppeteer to help with the reuse, or assisted Tim Rose with Snoodles and Akbar. And being a puppeteer, you can go from character to character. So we just went from one puppet to the next as they came along. I got to do a baby Ewok as well, and help Frank Oz with Yoda, because Frank was used to using me with Miss Piggy and Fuzzy Bear and helping me. So that's how that worked. So I guess right place at the right time, right? Or something like that.
As we all were.
I just have to say one other thing. I'm going to write a book about it, and I too had an affair with Harrison Ford.
Yes.
That makes 3 of us.
So we had, yeah. All at the same time, by the way.
Yeah. No wonder his dressing room was up on the 3rd floor. I got a call for an interview at Elstree, went down there, walked into George's office, and George had a storyboard of all the characters. You got the middle, you got the 3 in the middle, Vader at one end, and the walking carpet, as it is commonly known, at the other end. I looked at Vader. He said, 6'7", not big enough. You know, not for me anyway, because I'm 7'3". Yeah.
7'3", ladies and gentlemen.
So I sit down on a sofa, door opens, a little man with a beard, has been described, walks in. I do the obvious thing, in English, I stand up. He had Gary Kurtz with him, and George turned round, introduced himself, and said to Gary, I think we found him. And that's
the rest is history.
And that is the rest is history, and it's one of those wonderful stories, you can't make it up. It's true, and consequently, within a day and a half, we were down to the costumiers, getting the costume made, getting the mask made, and within 2 weeks, we were filming on Docking Bay 94. That was the first shot Chewie ever appeared into. So that is, you know, and the rest is history, and consequently, it's going to be 40 years next year, and we're going to enjoy it.
And one of my favourite things about Chewie is seeing Peter's sparkling blue eyes. That's one of the things I love to see on screen. So.
Blue Eyes is back. I must tell you, I sat down and one of the guys, one of the assistants here, thought that I was Chewie. He said, hello Chewie, and I had no idea what he was talking about. But this wonderful gentleman here said, I should have said, I'm not Chewie, I'm Crunchy.
So I'll open the next question to any of you. Do you guys have any good Star Wars story sets?
Oh, Star Wars story is a good one. Well, where from? At what point? I love
No, I wanted you guys have a good anecdote, or I specifically asked Jack Claff this about an hour ago. He's like, I've got good ones, and...
the first thing is, this is a weird thing, but I actually teach storytelling, believe it or not. And one of the things that is helpful, because I had such a tiny part in Star Wars, is to talk about story itself. Because one of the great reasons why this has been so successful is it is modeled on old myths. The mythical structure which George Lucas discovered hadn't been used. It's been used in movies, of course, in westerns and so on, but story itself is celebrated by Star Wars. So that's my first story. is the fact that if I'm telling stories and I start with the fact that I was in Star Wars, it's a good way in.
I think going back to Ducky Bay '94, Jabba was a big Irishman because they hadn't found anything on the computers that they could create to make him look like Jabba. It wasn't until the special edition came out that you actually saw what Jabba looked like. And he, Declan Mulholland was his name. He used to come to conventions, and his title was the only man to be filmed in Star Wars and never to appear. So, you know, he was a wonderful storyteller again, and he was just remarkable. But, you know, there's so many stuff, especially if you go, all right, we're dealing with Star Wars, you deal with all the other stuff of Empire and Jedi. There's so many stories that float around that you cannot remember everything. And you can only be in a certain place at a certain time. That way, everybody has a different story.
Yeah, I like Mark. When I first met Mark in the wardrobe, at my wardrobe fitting with John Marlowe, the costume designer, and I love the fact that right the very first meeting we had, we threw our arms around each other as actors will do, and he said, "You're my best buddy," and he said, "Besides, you got the best part. You die," and I thought, wait a minute, we had no idea that the film would go on to the history that it has now. And I thought death would have been a good thing at that point, because when you die on film, you get a lot of camera coverage as the camera zooms in and everybody cries. And that was my initial meeting with a guy that has remained a friend right up to this time. And I just saw him earlier this year at Celebration, and it was wonderful. And he said again, and he didn't realize he was repeating the line, but he said again, "I asked for you guys to be in The Force Awakens." He said, "Oh no, you couldn't have been. You died." So this is remained my theme song.
Let's see. I remember, one of the first times I'd worked with Harrison Ford was when he was coming out of the dungeon, I guess, after he'd been awakened from and I think I was working a tentacle that grabbed 3PO or something through him.
No, that was the monster.
It was the Minox. Is that what they were?
Yeah.
Well, down in the there was like a little gutter in this passageway, and it was filled with water. And of course, I was a 17-year-old Star Wars fan myself, working on set. So of course, that was amazing in itself. But then out steps Harrison in his Han Solo outfit, and of course, I was completely intimidated. And I just said, "Hi, Harrison. Good morning." Step back and put my foot into this gutter full of water, my shoe filled up with water, and I'm thinking, do you think he noticed? If I just act cool, perhaps he might even notice anything. But he may have done, I don't know, but I think he was a gentleman, and he just smiled and said, "Hi, morning," and it was very nice. So I think I got away with that one. But let's see. Now we've all been in, we're all pilots, and talking about the X-Wing, or the cockpits. Now back in the original movies, they were all rocked around by stagehands, weren't they?
Yeah.
We were just on like a gimbal and they'd rock us around. Now I got slightly motion sick in the co-pilot seat because I couldn't see out. I was underneath the puppet. So we're looking at a TV monitor. So it was like being in the bottom of a ship at sea. It was the worst thing ever.
That's a real admission that the X-Wing pilot who gets motion sickness.
Yes.
We're a hopeless bunch, really.
It's terrible.
And Bill Hootkins had to tear his up the back because he was too big for it. And I don't know what, I had to learn how to hit this Texas Instrument thing that we had in front of us to pretend I was using controls. I don't know what happened to you.
Yeah, I didn't get any controls either. I didn't have an audition. I didn't have controls. I'm starting to feel very, very left out here. But it was yeah, a whole lot of stagehands, and the platform was wooden, and they shook you, which is great because it's quite difficult to to do that. So they actually did it for you, and they said, do you mind being blown up? And you said, so yeah. But the thing is that once they'd done the sort of juddery thing. Oh, there's one thing I forgot. George Lucas told me to sort of do a bit of looking. That was an extra bit of acting. So I didn't get to press any buttons, but I did some looking. And then they blew me up. Yeah, thank you very much. All my years in Shakespeare and Chekhov and stuff like that, nothing to do with that. But when I'd finished, the thing was, I don't know if you had this, but they blew you up, you died as well. So they blew you up and then they gave you a wet rag so you could breathe.
No, but nobody's described the art of light that went over the top of us. That was the ingenious thing.
Yes.
They had a light on a gantry that went over us to make us look as though we were rotating. That was how primitive, and the camera itself was a very old camera, very historic camera. So we were surrounded by antiquity. And nowadays, you wouldn't have any idea. It's all digital nowadays. But we were the original pioneers.
I'm surrounded by antiquity. What are you talking about?
Derek, you talking about the old cameras?
Yeah.
When we did 7, they were using the original dollies.
There you go.
And the cams of film and nothing digital, or very little digital.
Yeah.
It was digital. So, talking about talking about things that were, you were talking about the movement of levers, and the whole of the Vulcan of that front desk, there were 2 movements, 2 levers that actually moved. So Alison would pull one, I'd pull the other one, and then we'd swap over it, and we're up on one of the sets. It's about 12 feet high, and we're in there, and someone calls lunch. I'm in the pilot seat, I've got the full mask on, everybody buggers off. Everybody goes to lunch. I had to let out the biggest Wookiee yell that I have ever done to get someone up there to take the mask off and get me out of the damn thing. So, it's crazy.
Some Wookiee yell, Peter.
That's the good one.
It's the hungry Wookiee. Across the hungry Wookiee.
Our work here is done. So, Mike, I got a question for you.
Okay.
We did an interview a couple of years ago on a stage much like this one, and we were with Tim Rose, who had just been announced he was going to be in episode 8, and I kind of asked him a couple questions. Of course, he couldn't answer it. And you sat there the whole time with your mouth shut and didn't say a damn word. I congratulate you on being able to keep a secret, but you, of course, were in episode 7.
Yes, it was a secret for a year and a half.
You kept it very good. I sat and talked to you for an hour, and you didn't say a damn thing.
Yeah, well, you didn't ask.
I would have. Okay, fine. Are you in episode 8?
Yes.
Oh, that is expected. But so what was it like when you were doing whatever, and I guess they reached out and contacted you and asked you if you wanted to be in episode 7? That must have been.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to return to the character while I still could, and it never happened in the prequels, sadly. So I was disappointed. But yeah, I mean, I knew that they were resuming these new trilogies, and so I actually actively sought out JJ via a musician friend who knew him very well. In fact, it's Thomas Dolby, the guy who did She Blinded Me with Science. he was a friend of Thomas, of JJ's, and I'd done some music videos for Thomas. So I said, hey, could you just pass on this note to JJ for me? And apparently, I think it helped. He received the note, and JJ was a big part of making sure he brought back what we're known as the legacy characters, Admiral Akbar and myself. I guess, I don't know, the original actors. But they could have used other people, but, you know, they had respect for the fans and for the characters and the continuity to bring us guys back. And that was a really lovely, amazing, surreal, beautiful thing. And I'm just so grateful.
You never know what you're going to do, what their plans are, because you don't tell it. And I got a phone call from JJ. We would like you to, if it's possible, to be in episode 7. Sure. And I explained the situation. He said, don't worry about it. We will work around it. We will find other people. And we had, we had a great time doing it. And it was great fun, and the new cast are absolutely wonderful people. John, Daisy, all of them are great people. You don't see that on screen, but apart from, you get them off screen, they, anything goes, basically. And John, being a Cockney, has got a wicked sense of humour. You can get away with almost anything. But I thought it was rather nice that JJ had personally phoned us and said, we need you, can you manage it?
That's fantastic. Kevin has told me that there's a baddie in the new one who looks like me when I was young. Is that right?
That's one of my questions. Since you wanted to jump the gun, I want all of you, especially guys in the back, if you got a phone, look up Jack Flaff, James Bond, and tell me this doesn't look like Kylo Ren. I mean, look at that. So I'm thinking like you were on the Rebel base where Carrie Fisher was on the Rebel base. He don't look like Harrison Ford.
Is it in the book? Is it in the book?
Oh, it isn't in the book? All right, but
there's a character in there that looks like me. In the new film, apparently. Oh, in Rogue One.
Rogue One, we're not allowed to talk about Rogue One.
Yeah, Rogue One. And it looks like me the way I do now. No, it's a guy with a mustache, and he is apparently Biggs running around in Rogue One.
He's got like the 70s haircut, too.
But Diego Luna is sporting a mustache in Rogue One, and I wish I looked like Diego Luna. Anyway, you're all waiting for Rogue One. When does it come out?
It comes out in 2 weeks. It comes out on the 15th.
Fantastic.
Want to go see it with me? No, I'm just kidding. I said you want to go see it with me. But, actually we were talking just before this panel. I pride myself on knowing a lot about Star Wars, but this was a piece of trivia I didn't know. And you said that Biggs was originally going to be a bad guy.
Oh yeah, but it goes way back to one of the early concepts. I think Biggs went through a lot of transitions in George's mind. Yeah, I wish I knew where George got the name Biggs. If anybody knows, he can tell me. Huh?
Well, I have a very dear friend called Anthony Biggs who runs a theatre. His father and his grandfather and his great-grandfather, Biggs, they were all admirals in the Royal Navy.
Well, that may be. I never met them.
Well, I gotta write that one down.
I don't know about George. That's great. I'll carry that with me. But yeah, Biggs was also a kind of younger brother to Mark, to Luke. And there's a scene in one of the earlier scripts running around giggling like a couple of little kids. And, but don't forget, Star Wars was eventually, he was called Luke Star Killer. George had a lot of different concepts right at the beginning. I'm glad I ended up on the right side. So, away with Biggs. That's why I have this kind of oxymoron as a name. Dark from my early history and lighter from my the history in which you all saw me.
Well, I was going to open it up to if any of you guys want to talk about some upcoming projects or anything like that. And Mikey specifically, we were talking about a little bit earlier today. Want to talk about some upcoming events?
Well, let's see. I have a production company, so I develop a lot of my own projects. I have some short films on characters I want to build, puppet characters, things like that. So I spend a lot of my time in my workshop. I'm also, one of the things that's coming up shortly is I want to create the world's first online puppetry training academy called Secrets of Puppetry. And it's a legacy of puppetry training skills for television and film that's been passed down from Jim Henson and Frank Oz from the early days of Muppets and the Dark Crystal workshops, where they taught us specifically how to do this stuff. So I kind of want to pass that on to the new generation. So for people who either want to do it just as a hobby, or do their own little web TV show, or work at libraries or hospitals or whatever, or become big famous puppeteer stars and work on New Sesame Streets or Muppets or whatever. So that's kind of a big thing I'll be working on in between other actual shooting, whether there's Muppets or whatever other projects come along. That's a big thing I want to get done. I feel it's important to pass on the information.
I'm going back to the theatre. I don't know how many of you have heard about the theatre plays. That's what I'm doing now.
I've read about those.
Yeah, they're interesting. Yeah, that's what I'm doing next.
Theatre is the one.
I'm also producing a little bit. I do audiobooks, quite a lot of them. One of the ones I just did was based on Ransom Riggs's new book called Tales of the Peculiar, which a lovely actor, English actor called Simon Callow did. A great bunch of stories that Ransom Riggs has written, and I think you'd enjoy it. But I'm going on to do lots more audiobooks, and I'm also in a series called The Crown, which is about our dear Queen. I play John Foster Dulles in The Crown.
Ah, very nice.
That was you?
That's amazing. That's fantastic.
I saw that.
Yeah, the Fog of War. No. How fantastic.
Now we can see that, I believe, in this country, can't we? Isn't it on, is it Netflix or Hulu or somewhere?
It's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's Netflix.
There we go.
Fantastic.
Excellent. We are going to open it up to questions. There's like a mic ninja somewhere. Where'd she go? Where? Oh, she's going to get the mic, which I thought she already had.
Calling mic
But
ninja.
before so you could just line up with her. But before we do that, I just wanted to ask you guys if, other than the character that you played, and I'll start with Peter. Other than the character that you played in Star Wars, who's your favorite character in Star Wars?
Princess Leia. Princess Leia?
Princess Leia.
No, it depends what you want out of what service you have from that particular character. 3PO has certain uses. R2 is definitely a good use, because he puts all the fires out in all the movies and usually saves everybody. I like them all, because otherwise, why would you get associated with them? You know, it's like buying a car. There's certain cars you want to buy, certain cars you don't. And it's up to you to make the decision to have that particular car or that particular car.
And it changes over time, doesn't it, as
Yes.
well?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, as you move through life, you identify with different characters.
My favourite is Harrison, definitely. You know, he's such a super guy, and yet he's normal. You know, he's not a superstar, because having spent a lot of time with him and being around him, you're there, and he will teach you things. You know, he's a good teacher. He will make an excellent director one day, and therefore, you know, someone that you've spent, as I say, someone that you spent a long time with, you do become associates.
For me, I would say it's really hard to choose, but I guess there are three I've modelled my career on. That's Chewie, Referral, and Biggs.
Friend forever. Friend forever. Well, Referral actually has a name. I love it. He has such a cool Star Wars name.
Hi, my name is John D. In the script it said John D. His helmet is dented from many battles. My favorite is Darth Vader. And I tell you why. I speak a little Dutch, and Vader means father, so the clue's in the name. And the fact, in terms of storytelling, that happens, I think that's really brilliant. Can I tell one quick story about Harrison Ford?
No. No.
Listen, I'm really obedient. You know, we people who have many battles, we obey orders. So Harrison Ford was starting out as an actor, and the studio executive came up to him and said, "You piece of shit, you gotta take attention, you gotta pay attention." So when I was starting out as a producer, I saw a guy come onto the screen. It was Tony Curtis. He came in, he was just delivering oranges, and I said to myself, that guy's a star. And Harrison Ford said, "You should have said to yourself, that guy's delivering oranges." And he said much later he did become a star, and he got a note from his producer saying, "Very pleased for you, congratulations, I was wrong, you were right." And Harrison Ford looked up and he just saw grey suits, he couldn't recognize the guy.
Yeah, my favorite character is the character that they made of Biggs in the Dark Horse comics.
That's your character.
I think this is the boys at Dark Horse did me a great favor. They gave me legs I could show off, muscles. They gave me a profile to die for. That's my favorite.
So you're a big Darth Vader fan, because you're the only actor in cinema history that was killed by Darth Vader and James Bond.
That's right. Oh well.
That was scary.
I was also on radio and on TV in Sherlock Holmes, and I played the same character in both. So it's nice when those kind of things happen, little coincidences, things like that. I'm the only person to be killed by Darth Vader
and James Bond. How cool is that?
Fantastic. I'm gonna tell everyone over supper tonight about that.
I looked it up.
Supper, thank you.
So we're gonna take our first question, and if it's a good question, I'm gonna give you a Battle of Gavin 40th anniversary patch. How about that? Woo! But it's got to be good. If it sucks, you don't get it.
My question is for Mr. Mayhew. I was wondering, how long did it take to get into costume and makeup, and was it difficult to wear?
Can you say that again?
For Mr. Mayhew, how long did it take to get into costume and makeup, and was it difficult to wear?
Length of costume, maybe 15 minutes. By the time it was a one-piece suit with a leotard underneath, pair of boots and a mask. So you put the suit on, go into makeup, put dark eyeliner around, and because the inside of the mask was a face cast of my own face, consequently it fitted really tight and my own eyes, so it's just a question of Velcro up at the back, and by the time everything else was done, you couldn't see the job. So 15-20 minutes, that was beard.
Was it difficult to wear?
No, because it was mohair. It was a knitted mohair suit. It got a bit sweaty and nasty, but that's what you use fans and cooling agents for, to keep you cool. It was no worse than 3PO or Vader's, because Vader's was wool and leather, 3PO's was a metal suit, so you could not move hardly at all.
I must just tell you, because we've all had this. If you have a face cast done of yourself, it's really not that pleasant, because they cover you over and they cover your nose, The only way you can breathe is through your mouth, and it can be a very claustrophobic feeling. So you're absolutely right, it does take it out of you.
It brings you doing it. I know, I mean this seriously, because Stuart Freeborn did my face cast. I'm sure everyone knows. And he said that you keep your eyes closed because I've only cut them out and put your eyes in there. And it was just like going to the dentist and having a denture made. Slap it on, let it harden, and then work on it. It's interesting. It was interesting to see how getting it done by Stuart, who is number one man in the makeup, was really nice. You know, he had an old barber's chair. I sat back in that and thoroughly enjoyed it. And then as he put the guns on, it heated up, and you could feel it like turning an oven up. It got really warm. Anyway, next.
Well, wow, we have a lot of questions.
This is for me. William Falcon in 7'3", and that cockpit is not very big, obviously. So how hard was it getting in and out of the chair?
So the question was, going into the cockpit, how hard was it to get in and out of the chair?
Fortunately, when they built it, they put racing car seats in.
1973, I was told.
Yes. Racing car seats in that slid back, and on the bottom, with the seats there. Over here, you have a big hole that I can get your feet through. It stopped, halfway down. There was a rod I could put my feet on, and instead of sliding forward, because we didn't have any seat belts. It was hard, but you do something more than about a dozen times a day. It's easy to get into. I always used to go in first because when you're a Wookiee my size, you need a lot of space to get in, and Harrison would always come in afterwards and fill in the background with Gary or Mark. So I was always first on set and first in. Okay.
Hi, my name is Michael from Queens.
I like the way you talk.
Yeah, me too.
I want to thank all you guys for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So my first Star Wars experience was November 17th, 1978. Does anybody know that day? Okay, no, probably not.
Holiday special?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, God.
It was the holiday special.
He brought it up, not me.
I know. Can we throw him out?
I watched on my grandmother's Zenith TVs about this tall.
Yeah.
That wide. Back when TVs were furniture. So my question is for you, Peter. Can you tell us a little bit about the holiday special, your thoughts on it, and what it was like filming it?
You've seen it. I ain't going to tell you about it.
I've seen it.
You know it's the family coming back.
I enjoyed it, but then again, I was poor.
It was great because Chewie takes Han back to Kashyyyk, right? And with the family, my wife, let's go through the family. My wife was a 6'8" guy. My son-in-law, or father-in-law, was a student. My daughter, my son rather, was a girl, about 3'6", 3'8", and we had Park Carney has traded it down. The Arthur was the video where she's cooking in the thing, and suddenly 6 hours turn out, and poor Marwa didn't know what the hell had hit her. And it was great. I enjoyed it. I don't know, I can't see why George didn't like it, but that's your opinion, my opinion, and we'll do it. You do it, and we had 4 sweaty Wookiees after the end of the shoot, like that. But we did get champagne on the wrap party afterwards. We got champagne and a nice big chat. So, to me, it's good. I enjoyed it.
Do you actually like the holiday special? I kind of have a funny story with it because I remember as a kid and I liked it. I saw it that night too and I thought it was good and I hadn't seen it for 30 years. And then Angie Mayhew, Mrs. Mayhew, Peter's wife, she had a copy of it and someone would give it to her. I said, I hadn't seen it in years, I liked it. She's like, it's terrible, watch it. But she gave me the copy, I watched it and it's terrible. Your acting was great though, brilliant. Next question. I have a feeling it's going to be a Wookiee question.
What do you think is the Wookiee question? This question is for all 4 pilots. When you're filming in the cockpit, I know everyone would just see mainly your face. Did you ever wear pants? Or, I mean, the X-Wing pants? Or did you ever wear like sweatpants? Or pajama pants? Or nothing?
No, we were completely
I like
Boy, yeah, you've got a great mind.
Are you
I never thought about that question.
You gotta be comfortable, right, with flying?
And I think I was costumed from my feet up. They didn't want to see me on the set without my full Rebel pilot costume. You have to know that at that time, we were, there's global warming now and climate change and stuff. In the 1970s, everyone said there was going to be an ice age. And we were filming in the middle of the worst drought. Do you remember that drought? We weren't, it was the first kind of big, you're not allowed to use your hose pipes. So what I'm trying to tell you is it was really hot. But we were costumed up, top to toe. Just a quick story about John Mollo, who was the costume designer. I met him at one of these conventions, and I was in another movie he designed, Dandy, and I was in a film for King David that he designed. So I went up to him, hi John, how are you doing? And he said, oh, yeah, and I said, and I just suddenly said, I blurted out, my God, you won 2 Oscars. He said, yeah, and here they are. And he was sitting there with his Oscars. I guess somebody was going to sign them. But one of the most remarkable things I thought when I looked at him was he turned around, and it was mainly Star Wars, and I thought this guy designed all the things that so many people are wearing. It must be an extraordinary experience for him. Anyway, we were top to toe. Yeah, that John Mollo was incredible because I talked about when we went to the wardrobe fitting, and he was picking out the costume for Biggs on Tatooine, and it was just at random. I had talked about wearing a cape when I was doing a film in Morocco for 6 months, and lo and behold, out came a cape. Then we had the Russian jacket, a Russian shirt, and then because this was all costume stock from Angels, and then the leather pants. He put together a costume for Biggs on Tatooine that was absolutely phenomenal. And I liked that particular costume and those particular scenes on Tatooine very, very much as a result. And the little model looks good, even the model.
So yes, of course for Nine he is a one-piece suit. It was redesigned by Michael Kaplan for The Force Awakens, but it is still a one-piece suit, so you have to wear the whole thing, including the boots, whether they're seen or not. Now, of course, when we're doing shows like this of an evening, we'll sometimes swap packs just to see how they feel. Tonight we have I think I have a 30-minute booking.
Well, with you, we go to the party, and sometimes I swap with your wife.
Okay. Ooh. This is the first I've heard of this. I'm not sure what to say. Yes.
Peter, did you get the page answer to the question?
Nope.
No, oh, Peter has the answer to the question.
Well, when you think about it, Chewie has skin, he doesn't have costumes.
How do you get to the bathroom in that thing?
Huh?
How do you get to the
Skin.
bathroom?
I got a back flap.
Oh, okay. Back flap.
But, you know, I got letters from fans saying that Chewie is an animal, therefore they're objecting that people were wearing clothes. Don't wear clothes. Because if you look to the original, it was Neanderthal man with a pair of Bermuda shorts and a Bermuda vest. So George said, no, he doesn't. He doesn't wear costume. He's lucky. He uses hair. Okay?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So the pressure's on you. You got to top that one.
Could be considered a follow-up, so to speak. First, thanks for being here. I appreciate the information. But the question I have is, you have all addressed the fact that at the time this may not have been anything special. Here we are 40 years or so down the road. All the props and costumes and effects from the movie are worshipped. At the time, were you able to keep any of the uniforms, or were you able to keep pieces, or was it all returned? And did it at all matter to you because it was just another movie?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. And not a button could we take away from that show, nor did we even think it was worthwhile taking a button from her. At one time, somebody told me that they had found a bit of my helmet, and one of our organizers called Jason Joyner set it up in a convention, a little piece of my helmet, and in a sort of a shrine. It was like he found the shrine of Turin. And I had my picture taken with this little piece of helmet that they said they found in the back lot. Well, at the end of the day, somebody came up to me and said, Derek, you were had. That guy is a prop maker. Jason, I hadn't known Jason very well. And he had made a little bit of that helmet, but nothing that we had in the film could we take away.
No. And they like to hold on to things for museum exhibitions or reference in the archives as well, or for photographing for books. So we're never allowed to remove anything anyway.
Yeah. 77, that was still a concept because it's only recently that the collector's market and the prop started. So the fact that they had the foresight to think about the future is interesting.
You're rubbing salt in the wound, my friend. You're rubbing. There's a little doll that high of my character, and my son and my daughter, who are all grown up, they pose with this little version of their dad repeatedly just to take the mickey out of me. It's very cruel. I was moving one time and I was clearing up my stuff and papers and so on, and I found the original script. Not the whole script, just my sides about John B. and the many battles and all that. So I do have that as a relic. Any offers?
Very lucky, because I had mine on the plane back from Tunisia, and I think I left it on the plane. But I did bring back two.
Typical.
I brought back 2 Tunisian bird cages for my mother-in-law, and then they're not bird cages.
No, we were never allowed to take anything, unless you knew the prop master pretty well.
You'll give him something.
And Charlie would always give you something. I got an original stretch, my own, because we were given, because you were a major character, you were given a full stretch. And that lives in a safe in the house.
What's the combination?
W-O-O-K-A.
Okay, great.
I thought the combination was going to be R2-D2. No, 3PO.
All right. Thank you very much. You know, I just noticed that you guys are all Rebel pilots, obviously. Chewbacca was a Rebel pilot, and we've got a TIE Fighter pilot. He's just sitting there staring at you for the entire hour. Not at me, right?
on, please, please, please.
Okay, okay, little boy. Come on up and ask your question, little boy. What's your name, little boy?
My name is Keith. This question here is for Mr. Mayhew. I was wondering, how many actual chess matches has Chewbacca ever lost? And are there any surviving witnesses?
Chess matches. I had before we shot that, I had never played chess. So as a good bit of acting with Fredio and everybody else, we had about 6 or 8 cameras on that particular set because it was the middle of the Falcon. You've got Harrison over there playing with the controls, Mark and Alec playing backball over there, and 3 characters playing chess. The actual chessboard is now in disuse. They found it in one of the warehouses, and it sits in the one of the exhibitions that Star Wars had, and it sits there. You can go and see it.
I'm just going to say, one of the phrases that I remember from that shooting period in Elstree was "Let the Wookiee win." That was our pet phrase.
Yeah, let the Wookiee win.
I just want to say that gentleman was there. He had a Guinness. You have a Guinness, and that is a wonderful drink. I drunk so much Guinness that I'm actually turning into a Guinness. You see the black with the foam on top? That's what happened to me.
You know, Jack, I'm glad you brought that up. That Guinness shirt is probably one of the finest designs things you'll see at this convention or any convention.
I like it.
And if you look closely, it says Kevin Lyle on the bottom. That's me because I designed it. That was cool.
Kevin designed it. Kevin's my shirt. Kevin designed it.
It's Alec Guinness shirt.
He has designs on you.
Did you, Jack, did you read it? It's Alec Guinness. Guinness. Okay, cool.
I got it.
All right, we have time for one more question.
I love your design. I think your design is marvelous.
We have time. We have time for just one. Oh, by the way, it's not chess. It's called Dejar. You non-nerd. Dejar. We have time for one more question, sir.
Okay, this is for all the pilots on the stage. In between takes, have you ever gotten into characters a bit too much just to goofing off on these events?
Can you say that again?
Okay, like in between takes, like we can basically send up for another shoot. Have you ever goofed off in the cockpit, in character by any chance?
Is there any goofing off in the cockpit in between takes? You know, when they cut and you're just sitting there strapped in?
Yeah, when you're working with Carrie Fisher, it's a goof off every time. And Harry and Mark's just as bad. So they will see a situation, and if she opens her mouth, nothing, everything comes out from her brain. There is no stopping her. And she just carries on, and usually makes the tension go away. Therefore, that's a goof off to me.
Yeah, and as a puppeteer and creature performer, you tend to stay in character when you have the puppet on or when you're wearing the character. You sort of just somehow you maintain that character the whole time. So there are lots of opportunities to well, the thing is, you know, the character can do stuff that you can't do as a human. You know, you can be insulting and say rude things and act drunk or whatever. So it's a wonderful opportunity to bring out that other part of you that otherwise can't come out as a human being. So yes is the answer.
Well, no is the answer, because I think George just said to me, do you know all the lines? And I said, yeah, I know the lines in order. And he said, well, yeah, just do them one after the other and look around the sky and down and that's what I did. So there was no time to goof off, because Jack was waiting out in the heat and he was ready to come on next. No time at all on a film set to goof around. Only the stars can goof around.
I mean, there's no goofing because it wasn't a conveyor belt. Although I was a very serious young man in those days, and so while I was waiting around, which was a couple of days before I got my bit to film, I actually read a Russian novel. That's really embarrassing.
In Russian.
Okay, and you're Russian.
And in closing, I just want to do one last thing. If we could do a group selfie, because I'm a narcissist.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
You can pay us later, okay?
Oh, absolutely. I'll pay you 20. I certainly will. But before we end, I just want to let you know that the Saber Guild would like to induct Mr. Mayhew into their organization. If they can come on up.
Oh, wow.
We're going to have a huge group of Sith and Jedi coming up here. Nice. One who looks suspiciously like Jack Black. Watch it. Ladies and gentlemen, my boss, Captain Zork.
Ladies and gentlemen, who's enjoying this panel so far? Hey, this stage is going to be empty for an hour, but come back at 2 for the Road Warrior panel. Also, in the smaller panel room in the back of the hall, there is a Ghostbusters panel about the origins and development of the story that became the famous movie we know as Ghostbusters. That's going to be happening right now. And we have special guests having their photos taken in our photo booth with those of you who want to take your pictures with them. Go back to the photo booth and see the schedule for the coming hour. And finally, if you are a cosplayer and had to check a prop weapon at the front desk, you may collect your prop weapon and carry it with you through the convention. You cannot carry real weapons and do not carry prop weapons into the casino. But if you have a prop weapon, you can pick it up at the front desk and carry it through the convention. And now, back to the show.
Can I have my stage back? Just want to say thank you very much for coming. All these guys are going to be obviously an autograph area. Thank you very much for coming. All day.